Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for bearing with us with some technical difficulties getting our screen set up. We appreciate your attendance today. We will be giving a presentation on Harmonize your multiple Dynamics GP companies. In essence, how do I get everything in one consolidated report? To give you that information, I will turn it over to Sarah.
Hi, everyone. At this point, you should be both hearing me and seeing my screen. If you're having issues with either one, please let me know. And let's get started. Okay, so this is meant to be a little bit more of a focus webinar than our general demo webinars that we normally do. So I am going to assume a little bit of beginning knowledge in ActivReporter here. So feel free to ask me questions or let me know that you need a little bit more follow-up information, and we can get emails out to you later on. But for now, we're going to go ahead and proceed. So like Tim said, today we're going to focus on reporting in multi-company environments. So what we're looking at mainly here today, we're going to talk about the two different ways that you can have a multi-company environment in Dynamics GP. And of course, those two ways are you can use a segment in your account structure to delineate separate companies, or you can actually have separate company databases in GP so that you have to flip between one company or the other to do work in either one. We're going to cover both those and combinations of both, as well as the issues that can cause difficulty creating consolidations between these types of companies, such as having different fiscal year ends, having different functional currency across these companies, or when they have differing account structures in their account format. So we're just going to start at the easiest place, of course. We're going to look at a situation where we have multiple companies separated out by company segment. So let me pull up my environment here and there we go. All right, so at this point, if you are not seeing a desktop with GP and ActivReporter, please let me know. GoToWebinar is very kindly not giving me any feedback from this, so please let me know. So we are at this point looking at my Fabricam company, and here in GP, I'd just like you to see what I've done with the account format here. So I'm going to go into my company account format settings and show you that I've actually changed this first segment in Fabricam to be my company segment. And then I have renamed my company segment items to display, to stand in for different companies. So that's the setup we're looking at within GP, and how we're going to look at that in ActivReporter here. Let's see. Let's go into financial designs. So financial designs, as you know, is where we build and store the templates that you use to produce your financial statements. So for this webinar, I have a very specific design that I've put together with all my examples. So we're going to use that. I'm going to go ahead and open that up in Excel. And we're just going to work within the normal Fabricam period of April 2017. We're going to use live data so that we can see all of the changes. Okay. So when we're talking about a situation where we've got multiple companies delineated by an account segment, it is, of course, very simple to create a consolidated, right? You just need to include everything. It's all under one chart of accounts. So it's very simple to create a consolidated just by using the layout wizard that we normally work with. So just to provide that example, I'm going to go down here and choose the income statement layout. And for my account grouping mechanism, I am going to use a roll-up that I've imported from Management Reporter. So as you may remember, Management Reporter works with row definitions, which we can import into ActivReporter as ActivReporter roll-ups. It functions very similarly, just means the different company or the different accounts that you'd like to see grouped on one line. So what I'm going to do is select this roll-up right here and say OK. And the wizard will generate for me everything that I need as far as creating a consolidated income statement for this Fabricam company. Now, of course, this is going to have everything from every company segment. So the challenge with this kind of setup is going to be actually breaking it out so that I can see perhaps my corporate here, and then maybe company A, company B, company C, and so on. So that's what I'm going to show with this item here. So very quickly, what we're going to do here is I'm just going to put in the name of my segment that splits out by company. In this case, it literally is company, making it pretty easy. And then I'll just put in the company item that I'd like to limit to here. Now, if you're familiar with building reports in ActivReporter, you already see where I'm going with this, but we'll walk through it. So when I open up my function here that's pulling my sales number, you can see that it's currently limiting by the roll-up item 130 that represents my sales. But I'm going to add to that we now want to limit not just by the sales roll-up item, but also by the company segment here. So this is something that I'm really excited to show you guys. We've made a slight change to item expression, and this is the formula you may remember that helps us translate our references to the metadata here into requests to the basically into the database. So so that I can use this function and it returns this for the purposes of pulling data. So as you remember, we used to have to do, we'd have to concatenate with the ampersands and do this, but I don't have to do that anymore. If I want to add another item expression, I can now add as many limiting items as I want within one item expression function. So I can do comma, company, comma, segment item 000. And of course, I want to make sure that my references are going to stay correct. So now when I do that, this cell here is now limited specifically to the event or the values occurring within the company segment 000. And let me just roll that all the way down. Okay, and you can see that that bottom number changed to represent that we're now limiting to this company segment. And just to be able to identify, I am going to do this so that you can see which company segment we're referring to. So I'm going to do segment item description, and same thing, refer to the name of the segment and then the segment item. And we'll make sure our references stay correct. And that's now going to return the name of that segment. So let's break this out into my other segments. I'm just going to copy and paste my column a few times. That's one of the major benefits of setting up your reports with this sort of metadata area that you reference instead of directly referencing things here. Because I can copy and paste this, and then I can go in and just change to the company segment that I want. And you can now see that I have a financial statement that covers each one of these companies in a separate column. So very efficiently and very quickly being able to break out my income statement information by company segment. So that's pretty simple. As far as a consolidated total, you do have two options. The obvious Excel answer is I can go in and do a sum formula, and I can copy that all the way down. Or what I would prefer you do, you see how when I click on this value, I get that down arrow indicating that I can do a drill down on that value? See, this sum here, this sum formula does not provide me drill down. What if I wanted to see everything broken out in columns, but I wanted to look at the transaction detail in a consolidated view? Well, the sum formula isn't going to provide that. So what I would recommend that you do is, again, I'm just going to copy and paste. Now, this isn't going to return anything yet because right now it's referring to a company segment that's not being provided. So what I'm going to do is go back into the formula here and just remove the part where we referred to the company. So now this is where we started. Where we did, yeah. Now this is where we started. There we go. And I'll roll that all the way down. And now we have a consolidated total right here that I can drill down on and see my consolidated total. Okay, and then of course, because this is Excel, if we want to make this nice and pretty to send out to anyone and distribute, all you've got to do is do the regular formatting and things like that, and potentially your statement could come out looking a little something like this when it was printed and ready to go. So pretty simple to talk about this situation. So let me go back to this. And we're going to go and look at an environment that has separate company databases set up. So just to clarify, because I've found that a lot of people use different terminology to refer to this, depending on whether you're more the accounting side or the tax side. What I'm referring to when I say separate databases, from the user perspective, what you'll see is a list here where it says company. You'll see a list of different companies. Each one of these on the technical side is actually a separate database, meaning that it's a little bit harder to get information out of multiple at once. If you work in a multiple company environment like this, you're used to looking at this screen and kind of flipping back and forth between the two, several times a day. So what we'd like to do is stay away from that, right? We want to simplify having to log in and out of different companies. So let's take a look at this in the ActivReporter world. So as you saw, I just flipped from Fabricam to its twin company, Fabricam. I know I'm very clever with my naming, but it serves the point of showing you that it's pretty much a Fabricam clone. You can see here in ActivReporter that each one of the companies I had in my GP dialog window are available over here in ActivReporter. And one of the things that I'd like to highlight is I can actually have multiple connections to companies at once. So here I'm connected to my Fabricam company. I can look at my chart of accounts and all the things there. And I can also connect to my Fabricam company and look at my data from there at the same time without having to log into one or log out of another. So from a financial perspective, I'm going to pull back up this financial design that we've been working with. So if we're looking at a sample, or we're looking at a situation where you've got multiple databases, we're going to again start with that layout wizard. The layout wizard is going to be your best friend, I just promise you. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. I'm just going to start with that management reporter income statement roll-up. And it's going to, there we go, generate everything out for me. So this time what we're doing is this column is going to be, I'm going to use this formula here. This is going to return the company's legal name as defined in the ActivReporter application. So at this point, all we're doing is displaying information that's coming from my Fabricam company, right? What if I'd like to have a second column here that's going to show my Fabricam company? Well, that's going to end up being pretty simple, actually. What I'm going to do first is fix this first column, so it's specifically referring to Fabricam. As you can see here in this formula, right here, company legal name, I'm not giving it anything to work with, right? There's nothing in between, there's parentheses at the moment. And that's because if you don't explicitly put an answer there, ActivReporter will assume the company you want information for is the one that you're currently connected to. So I'm currently connected to Fabricam, so it's automatically assuming that I'd like the company legal name for my Fabricam company, which is Fabricam Inc. I can also explicitly refer to this here, and I'm going to do pretty much the same thing I did in the segment items. I'm going to write down company, just to label for myself what this row is, and I'm going to put Fabricam here. Now I'm going to change this so that this formula is actually now explicitly saying that it wants the company legal name for the Fabricam company, and it will return Fabricam Inc. Now, each one of our financial functions has the same capability. It has a parameter item here where you can give it a company reference. So what I'm going to do is in this company item, I'm going to refer to the cell that has Fabricam in it and make my reference work across columns. We'll put OK. And you won't see any change in the numbers here because it was already showing Fabricam, but now it's specifically only showing Fabricam. What this lets me do is, again, copy my column, and now I can actually go in and I can change one letter, the F to the G, and when I do that, everything changes. So now you can see that I have one column showing Fabricam, one column showing Fabricam. Drill down works across both companies. Here you can see I'm drilling down into the Fabricam data. And here, if I drill down, I'm drilling into the Fabricam data. So I'm actually able to access transaction level detail for both companies in separate databases at the same time. So once you set this up and you've got all the data that you need here, you can see that we've got it all. You can do all your Excel beautification, and that could come out looking something a little bit like this. So we'd go in to print that, and you've just got a nice consolidated statement for someone to look at from a from a high level. They can see just this, or you as the the manager can come in and actually drill down and do research on all these items across companies. Now, one thing I do want to mention in a situation like this, and I'll just kind of go to split screen for a second here. So I would like to point out a limitation that we have due to the way Dynamics GP works. It's pretty inflexible about only letting you access the company you're currently logged into. So I'm currently in Fabricam, which means that when I'm here and I drill down on this detail and I'd like to see this detail in GP, I can do the shortcut that I normally do, the Control-J, to drill back into that journal entry in the GP realm. Okay, and that is pretty convenient. It works really well. But if I'm doing research here on the Fabricam side, yes, I can access all of the transaction detail, and I can see the journal entry information and all this from ActivReporter. But if I want to see it in Dynamics GP, I try and drill down, and I get this nice little error. All this really means is you're not logged into the right company. So here, if I go back into Fabricam, so here I am in Fabricam. You can see that I've got Fabricam down here at the bottom. And I'll try that drill back again, and there it is. This time it worked instead of getting that error. So if you're trying to do this and you find you keep getting that error and you don't know why, that's what it is. You just need to watch what company you're logged into. So, all right. Now I'm going to switch back to Fabricam before I forget that I put myself in Fabricam. All right. So you can see that it's actually fairly simple to report across multiple companies here if you have no other complications, right? We all know that there's more complexities than, just changing an F to a G. So let's look at some of those. Let me pull this back up. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to tackle is looking at when you have multiple companies that have different fiscal year ends. Of course, we all prefer to have a nice calendar fiscal year end because it's lots easier to remember December 31st than it is to remember July 31st, but it's not usually up to you, right? So we're going to live in a world where we've got multiple fiscal year ends, and we've got to consolidate them all and display the same calendar period of data no matter what fiscal period it is. So again, let's go back to this financial design. I'm still connected to Fabricam, you see, So we're going to start in the same place. We're going to do a financial statement, or we're going to do an income statement layout. I'm going to do the management reporter income statement roll-up, and I'm going to generate that. Okay, we're right here. I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the other one. We're going to put the company legal name in so that we can see what we're looking at, and that's not going to return anything yet because it doesn't, well, oh, it did. Oh, looks like if I refer it to a blank cell, it'll automatically refer back to Fabricam. That's pretty convenient. So I'll just tell it right there that it's Fabricam. I'm going to tell that that is the company. And this time, instead of using one of my Fabricam clones, I'm actually going to use a company that we call the university. So this is data from a university, and there's lots of volume, and it's got a completely different fiscal year end than Fabricam. Fabricam, of course, has a calendar year, and university has a fiscal year end of, we're going to take the opportunity to look at this in ActivReporter. I believe it's June, but I'm going to double check. So down here in ActivReporter in the university company, I can go down to the setup folder and open the calendar folder. And here I can see all the calendars I've defined for this company. Of course, the default one is always going to be the fiscal calendar that comes over from GP. And just opening that to get a look at it, you can see that, yes, my fiscal year end for the university is June 30th. And of course, that's different than December 31st. So there's a little bit of a wrinkle there, right? So what I'm going to do, same thing I did before. Oops. I'm going to build in my company reference to Fabricam here, and I'll make it work across column. Copy it all the way down, and I'll just copy this column here. Now, I'm going to give us a little info cell here so we can see what we're looking at. Because right now this looks fine, right? We've got different numbers showing that I'm pulling from two different databases, which when I drill down, you see that I'm getting the university data. But look at this here. Look at this calendar period. I'm pulling the fourth period of 2017, but the date for that is October 16. So I'm comparing right now October 2016's data across what Fabricam has as April 2017. So that's really not all that useful. What we want to do is sync this up so that even though they have two different fiscal periods, they're going to both display the same period as far as the calendar is concerned. So what I'm going to do here is build us in a little check cell so you can see where we are without having to do that drill down and see it. So what I'm going to do is put a formula in here that'll be, let's see, period. And I'm going to do, so that first part there that I put in parentheses, that's just text that's going to be returned. That ampersand is kind of like super glue, gluing different functions together in Excel. So I can do multiple all in one formula and it'll return it all without any problems. So I'm going to say it's period. And then I'm going to use a period number formula to display what period number it is. And I'm going to refer to that cell there, again, carrying across columns. So you can see that right now, this is going to return what period we're in. But I'm going to add something to it as well. We're going to do the year, right? Because sometimes when you've got a fiscal year end that's in June, you can sometimes be in a different calendar year than someone who has an actual calendar year end. I know this is confusing. Just stick with me and you'll see the formula come out and it'll make sense. So what I'm going to do here is add on to the end of this period year. And again, select the period. Okay, so you can see that what I'm returning here, period 4 of 2017. Now, I'm referring to my current cell here, but I don't have any company references. So what I want to do is let me just open my formula wizard here and show you. So drilling into this formula here, the period number formula, look at that. We've got a company slot to put a company reference in. So this won't actually change what is shown in this cell yet because it's all referring to Fabricam and this is all it's all default. But let's put that in anyway so that when we change it, we'll see the change. So I'm going to build that in there. And it's also in this one as well, period year. So we have the option to put in a specific company reference in most of these functions. So that's what I'll do. Now, when I carry this over to my university column, it's still doing the same thing, right? But let me, it should actually, okay. What I'm going to do, that's not what my final one did. Maybe I did something different. We'll look at that in a minute. But let me just drill down and show again that we're looking at October 2016's data here, and you can see that by looking at the post dates of my transaction details. All I really need to do is change this to current +6. And now this changes. So what I've done here, let's just walk through this. When I say current, when I use the word current in a financial design and ActivReporter, what that means is what in this options dialog have I set as the current period? Now, this is always related to and in reference to the company that I'm currently connected to. Remember, that's Fabricam. So what we're doing is we want period 4 of fiscal year 2017 in the Fabricam company. Well, it's calendar, so easy enough. That's April 2017. But if I want to get April 2017 in the university company, I have to go forward 6 periods. Because remember, it was in October 2016. So add 6 periods to October of 2016, and now we're going to come up with what university considers to be period 10 of 2017. And when I drill down on that, you can see that I am now successfully returning April 2017 numbers. So now instead of apples and pumpkins, I'm comparing apples to apples. You see what I did there? I did pumpkins because it was in October. Yeah, it's getting to be Halloween season, guys. I'm excited. Anyway, we are now comparing 2 things that are comparable to each other. So what I've done here with these, this just helps me keep track of the fact that they are showing the proper values. It helps me show that these do have different fiscal years, so that, you know, from a university point of view, I understand, yeah, I'm in period 10. From a Fabricam point of view, I know I'm in period 4. So when I set all of that up, of course, I'm going to show you this final one again. You can get all of that nicely formatted and totaled, and you can hide your 0 values, and you can come out with a statement that looks a little bit like this, that allows you to show a consolidation between 2 companies that have a very different fiscal year end. Now, there's something else about this example that I'd like to highlight as well. We'll stick on this nice pretty one. So when I drill down on the Fabricam side, we see the very familiar Fabricam structure, right? I've changed this first segment to be company, but usually it's division. Second segment is account, and third segment is department. That's on the GP side. We bring that over into ActivReporter, and we add a -A on the end to specify that this account is going to have the actual amounts in it, the actual activity, your base ledger, as it is in GP. So that's going to be my Fabricam account structure. When I drill down into the university's data, you can see that this has a very different chart of account structure. I do not know what each one of these segments are. They do various different things, but it's enough to show that they are quite different. And how did I manage this? How was I able to use one roll-up across two different types of account structures? Well, it's very similar to what you would have done in Management Reporter. So in Management Reporter, generally when you want to report on a couple different companies that have two different account structures, you have to add multiple links to financial dimensions columns, right? So you have the one column that does your account groupings for Fabricam, and then you do a second column that has your account groupings along the same lines, but with the different account structure for university. So we do something similar, and let's go into the ActivReporter application to look at that. So let's look at Fabricam, and you'll remember that we are using this income statement roll-up that I've imported from Management Reporter. Let's look at this. So this is made up of each one of these roll-up items. You'll recognize these as being the same ones that we, let's do this one, that we generate when we do the layout wizard. So see those side by side. Each one of these items is defined by either a specific reference to an account segment, a mask, or a range of account segments. So what I have to do in order to be able to use the same structure across multiple account formats is simply create the same roll-up in each company. So let's illustrate that for a minute. I'm going to pull this to the side so we can see things a little bit better. And we're just going to minimize. So here's the roll-up as it exists within Fabricam. And in order to make this work across companies within the financial design, all I needed to do was go down to my university company and create a roll-up with the same name. Let's pull this way, and we'll just, oh, there we go. So these are the two listing of roll-ups, and you can see that they contain the same items, the same groupings. When I look at the specific items, let's look at sales. So here we've got Fabricam on the top and university on the bottom. Now, they both have segments called account, which are their mains or their naturals, if you will. And on the Fabricam side, the account segments of 4100 to 4185 are my sales accounts. Well, in the university, it's the 4000s as well, but in the university, it's actually 4200 and 4999 that delineate my sales accounts. So I'm able to on the, oh, I've got Fabricam open. Well, it's the same as Fabricam. It's the same roll-up, sorry. But on the Fabricam side, I'm able to go in and say that I only want this range of account segments to show up as my sales. And then I'm able to go in and specifically configure it for university as well. So by using roll-ups with the same name, I'm able to access the roll-up from a financial design for each one of these companies. But when I refer to a specific company in the financial design, that company reference tells ActivReporter to look at this sales definition in the university column and this sales definition in the Fabricam column. So hopefully that makes sense. Basically, it just means that your account structure can be as different or similar as you like across companies, and as long as they roll up into, the same roll-up items, you can use the same roll-up to create one report with the same line items. Now, if you have different line items, say that maybe my Fabricam here. Let's say, something that's missing from my Fabricam here, there's no tax expense or interest expense. But my university probably has some tax expenses or interest expenses over here. So if I needed to do that, I could create another line here, say, 800 or what have you. If I added a line, for a tax expense on the university side, but didn't add it on the Fabricam side, that's okay. It can still show up for university. It's just that Fabricam is going to return with zeros because it doesn't exist in Fabricam. So that's something that you give a little thought to it, and you can figure out a definition that, or a line definition that works with your company structures for each one of them. And then you can go in and define the structure, the specific accounts that fall within these lines. You can define that specific to each company, but call it in a group environment like here in my financial design. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, please let me know, and we can talk about it specifically in your situation or in any situation. So that is going to be, I didn't show the slide for it, but that's going to be that slide as well, so the account structure. So let's move to this one. So this is a fun topic, right? Multiple currencies. This is something that ActivReporter has been working very hard to work with. And I'm really excited to get to show you where we are right now and how we can actually handle reporting on companies that have different functional currencies. So let's do a quick lesson here. So this is, you might recognize, it is the same as, this is when we did the across databases, right? Multiple companies, separate GP companies that you have to log into and out of. We did this, and I copied it over here so we can start with an imaginary situation. Fabricam is actually a, how did I set this up? Okay. So Fabricam has in my imagination right now, Fabricam has a functional currency of CAD, okay? So Fabricam lives and operates in Canada. Its functional currency is the Canada dollar. Fabricam, its functional currency is USD. It lives and breathes in the United States. But I would like to be able to see Fabricam reported in CAD in order to match Fabricam, so I can compare, again, apples to apples instead of apples to pumpkins or what have you. So right now, this is our fictional situation. Fabricam is in CAD. That means that all of these numbers here, I'm just going to do this formatting so it gives us a hint of where we are. I'm going to format this currency with the CAD word so that we know this is in CAD and this is currently in USD. Okay, so what I'm able to do, let's open this function one more time. And you'll notice that in addition to that company segment that we learned how to use earlier, we've also got a unit parameter here. So let me close this, and I'm going to add another row for my currency. We refer to currencies as units, so I'm just going to put unit there. And we carry over the setup, the name from GP. So when I'm here in GP, let's just look at this. If I pull up my multi-currency, you can see that this is how they write the symbol for Canadian dollars. They do that Z-C $sign. So we use that same thing because it comes from GP. We'll do Z-C $sign. Okay, I'm just going to double check that that is right. Okay. So what this is saying as far as my setup is that I would like this column to show in CAD. So looking at my GP setup here in my multi-currency, you can see that I have conversions from USD to CAD defined here in this exchange rate table, okay? So I don't want to get super deep into how to do multi-currency. If you don't know how to do that, that's something to talk about with your VAR. But for our purposes today, we're just going to say that we've set this all up. You know, I have rates defined to pull through to ActivReporter. And when I open the ActivReporter application, we can see down here in Setup and Units, we can see in my Canadian dollar unit that I have all those currency conversion rates coming from GP into ActivReporter, where I can use it in financial design. So all I need to do, once this is all set up in GP and comes through to ActivReporter, in the financial design, I go into the function, and here in the unit blank, I'll just make a reference to this here, and we'll make this reference so it'll go correctly. And now, this is now displaying in CAD. So let's just bring that down so that it will go all the way down the row. It's a little bit more complicated with a formatted one like this. But this way. There we go. And now that this is all in CAD, we can change it to the same as the other column. Okay, now let me just show you this again, because if I remove this unit reference here, I'm going to copy it so that I have it in my clipboard. If I delete this reference, you see those numbers change? Now they're displaying in USD. But when they have that reference to the Canadian currency here, they're using the conversion rates from the exchange rate tables in GP to perform that conversion from USD into CAD. So these are now CAD values. When you drill down, you're going to see the CAD total here that you drilled down on. That's the number I clicked on, right, to get the arrow to drill down. But the transaction detail here is actually going to be reflected and shown in the functional currency, in this case, USD. So total that we drilled down on, still up here in USD. That's what displays on my financial statement. Transaction detail down here showing the backup for that value. This is all in USD, which can be shown here by, I'm just doing a Control A to select everything here. And you can see that my total down at the bottom in USD is $231.89.94 versus what that number is in CAD, which is this $57,000. Okay, I am new to MultiCurrency. If I've explained something badly, please let me know, but hopefully that makes sense to you. Julie was asking a good question, and I'm bringing it up now instead of waiting for the question period because it's pretty relevant to the currency issue, and I do want to mention it. She's asking about using the average rate. So yes, let me bring this up so I can kind of explain. MultiCurrency is a feature that's currently in development for ActivReporter. Right now, what we support from GP is we support bringing over for use in ActivReporter only the exchange rate table that is defined for use with the current translation type. So the only methods that we currently support are current and historical. We cannot currently do the average translation type. We can't do either the average or the day's average. The average is something we're working on potentially supporting. The first step that we're working on right now is being able to support multiple exchange rate tables. Because as I said, for right now, all we're able to do is sync the table that's referred to in this area right here, the current column. Now, because of the way that current and historical work, we are able to do both current and historical because there's no calculation that's necessary to apply the rates. The average method is a little different in that sometimes you want GP to average the rates for you and then use that result in reporting. And Management Reporter can do that, but ActivReporter, as of yet, is not able to perform those calculations. So we can work with the current and historical methods only. Julie, let me know if that doesn't answer your question, but that's what I've got for you, and we'll be giving out updates as that progresses. And like I said, that is something that is currently being worked on. So let me pull this back up. Okay. All right, so we've kind of whirlwind blown through several different situations, and I do want to just make a note here regarding eliminations between companies. When you are in an intercompany environment, you know that frequently you're going to have interco. You're going to have one company buying from another, one company investing in another. You're going to have some situations like that that need to be eliminated when you're presenting a consolidated presentation. So there's several ways to do this within GP. I've seen people they use a separate company that they do all of their eliminations with, and then use your reporting to add the elimination entries in. You can use reporting ledgers within GP. Your GP supports you being able to keep multiple ledgers available at the same time. Most people only use the base ledger, but you're also able to activate reporting ledgers, which are intended to track differences for things like IFRS or local accounting differences, but that's also easily used to track elimination entries as well. I've also seen people put it into their budget. They have a separate budget that they use to show that elimination going through. Or people will often just leave it as it is in GP and then work out the eliminations by using calculations in their reporting solution. So in Management Reporter, you'd add a couple non-printing columns that would do your calculations and come out with your result after eliminations are done. ActivReporter can handle any of these situations. We, of course, can do multiple company like we've just shown. So an elimination company is not a big deal, easy to do. Reporting ledgers, same thing. We support multiple ledgers. And if you do have your reporting ledgers activated, we're going to sync all of the activity in all of your ledgers. Same with your budget. We pull in all your budgets and can report on all of your budgets. And of course, because ActivReporter lives and breathes in Excel, we're able to do those calculations directly in Excel and just have them outside of the printable area so that you can present the nicely calculated results. So, like I say, however you do it, ActivReporter can accommodate it. There's a lot of good research out there on how to do eliminations. The most important thing is just pick away, stick with it, and then report on it accurately, which is what ActivReporter can help you with. So, having said that, and many other things, we have reached the end of the presentation. And at this point, if you do have any questions, I'd love for you to send them in to me right now. If you're not able to send in your question now, but you have a question, feel free to send me an email. There's an email that I will be included on there on your screen, that's sales@activereporter.com. And you can see our website there, activereporter.gp. You've got our phone number, and that's all I've got for you.
Sarah, thank you so much for walking us through a lot of different multi-company ideas within ActivReporter and how we can use them. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We hope that you gain some knowledge here, and maybe we can help you further in giving you better reporting in the future. Again, if you have any questions, as Sarah's already mentioned, please feel free to contact us at sales@activereporter.com, and we will respond to your question as quickly as possible. As I've been talking, someone has entered a question. Is that one that we can answer now in the next few minutes, Sarah, or do we need to do this offline?
This is a question, again, about MultiCurrency. We can answer this one real quickly. Asking if our equity statement will take the historical rates using MultiCurrency. And yes, we do support using the historical method. And all you'd need to do is make sure that you have the setup in GP completed. And by that I mean that you have the accounts that you want to use the historical translation type, that you have them set to that translation type on the account. If you have questions about that, you can shoot me an email. We can talk about it offline. But yeah, as long as you have it set up in GP to use the historical rate, it will bring through that information to ActivReporter and be able to use the historical translation type on those accounts. I believe that answers your question. Let me know if it doesn't.
Once again, thank you for joining us for our presentation today. We look forward to serving you in the future. If you have any more questions, please contact us. So thank you, and make it a great day.